Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Aggravating Cap 8662 and it says, am I the arsehole for leaving my sister's wedding early after she made me wear a neon green bridesmaid's dress? Okay, I know the title sounds dramatic, but hear me out. I, 24 female, was a bridesmaid in my older sister's 28 female wedding last weekend. She's super into aesthetic themes, which is fine, but her chosen color scheme was neon green and hot pink. The 2000s Nickelodeon slime meets Barbie's clubbing era. When I first saw the dress she picked for me, I thought it was a joke. It was this highlighter green satin thing that clung in all the wrong places and made me look like a walking glow stick. I asked her nicely if I could maybe wear a darker green or literally anything else, but she said no because it would ruin the vibe. Okay, her wedding, her rules. I sucked it up. Fast forward to the day of the wedding. The ceremony goes fine, but the dress is attracting actual bugs. I'm sweating like I'm in a sauna and people are staring. Not in the, oh, how pretty way, but more like, did she lose a bet? Then during the reception, one of my sister's friends drunkenly calls me Shrek's prom date within earshot of like 10 people. Everyone laughs. My sister hears it and laughs too. No, hey, that's my sister. No, don't be rude. Just straight up cackling. I was so embarrassed and honestly hurt. I smiled through it, but after the first dance, I quietly told her I wasn't feeling great and left early. Now she's mad. She says I abandoned her on her most important day of her life and that I made it all about me by leaving. Even our mum is saying I should have just stayed and powered through because it's not that deep. But I wasn't trying to make a scene. I didn't even say anything to anyone. I just didn't want to keep standing around being the neon laughing stock. So, am I the arsehole for dipping out early after being humiliated in a dress I hated from the start? We've seen stories before where people sometimes pick questionable bridesmaids dresses and people don't want to wear them because it's not their style or vibe or anything like that and still power through. But there's a difference between like that this isn't my style and I'm literally being mocked by wedding guests while the sister is joining in as well. And in the end, like you said, you didn't make a scene, you didn't cause drama, you didn't announce what was going on to anyone. You quietly removed yourself from the situation where you was being humiliated. If you had wanted to, you could have literally turned around to those people laughing and said, yeah, who would pick this dress for their wedding, and then look straight at your sister. But you didn't do that. You chose the mature approach of leaving. I did Google neon green bridesmaids dresses and, you know, they look fairly standard bridesmaids dresses for a certain type of aesthetic in a wedding. I would like to see the one in this story though. I have a feeling it's not quite the same thing that I'm looking at on Google right now. But Queasy says, yikes, I'm so sorry that she did that to you. Not the asshole at all. Burn that thing. Queen says, OP, your best revenge is to have the most elegant wedding possible. Select drop dead gorgeous dresses that complement each bridesmaid perfectly. Understated elegant makeup and hair. Sophisticated flowers and decorations, and do not invite her to participate. She just comes as a regular old guest. You did nothing wrong. A grown-up approaches a wedding with a dignity that respects the significance of the day, not a club dance party vibe from the 1980s. Your sister lacks class. You acted with an abundance of it. I'm positive that the contrast was noted by discerning people, not the arsehole. Another comment says your sister shouldn't have laughed and made you the joke. If your mum is saying you should have just sucked it up, your sister might have been following that advice when her friends were laughing at you. Instead of standing up for you, your sister may have decided to just roll with the laughter, not wanting to push back. In the end, you honored her and then you honored yourself. Sorry that happened to you. Your sister may one day realize your perspective, especially when she sees the wedding pics. Former says you're the arsehole. I know I'm going against the majority here. It completely stinks that your sister decided to use horrible colors and inflict that on her bridal party. However, you did agree to the bridesmaids with full awareness of the dress. When the comment was made, perhaps your sister was embarrassed herself because her vision was being mocked. Maybe she didn't really hear or connect the comment. Perhaps she didn't know what to say. Regardless, you decided to learn over a dress? Gently saying this really wasn't a moment where it wasn't about you. It would be far more beneficial if you lean into these moments in life, find the ridiculousness of it and shrug it off. You did miss moments of your sister's wedding and it seems that you care about her very much. So at some point later, OP does come in with their update and says, "Hi again. First off, thank you to everyone who commented, upvoted, or even just quietly thought, damn, poor girl. I didn't expect the post to blow up, but you all made me feel way less crazy for walking out of the wedding looking like a radioactive string cheese. So, a lot has happened since I posted. My sister saw the Reddit post. Yep, someone sent it to her. I don't know if it was a cousin, a frenemy, or one of her hot pink bridesmaids, but she called me the next morning livid, said I publicly embarrassed her, and that I made the wedding look like a joke. I told her very calmly that she did that all by herself with a Nickelodeon color palette and by laughing when someone called me Shrek's prom date. We argued, not gonna lie. I cried, she cried. I think she was more hurt that I didn't pretend to enjoy myself, and I was hurt that she didn't care how uncomfortable I felt the entire time. I asked her flat out, would you have stayed if the roles were reversed? Her silence said everything. Our mum is still in the keep the peace mode and said maybe we both overreacted. But guess who texted me later that day? The drunk friend who made the Shrek joke. She apologized. Apparently she didn't realize it hit so hard and said she thought we were all on the same vibe. Spoiler, we were not. Also, and this is the funny part, I found out that another bridesmaid left early too. She didn't say anything because she didn't want to be rude, but she felt like a walking glow stick too. So I guess I wasn't alone in my highlight of pain. As for my sister and I, we're taking space. We haven't talked much this week. I don't hate her, but I think we both need a breather before we pretend everything's fine at family dinners. And yes, I did burn the dress. Okay, no, I didn't, but I might use it as a Halloween costume. Radioactive regret. Grumpy G says after this one, tell your mum she can keep the peace, but you rather have a mum that stands by your side and defends her daughter when she gets hurt on purpose. By not taking sides, she's exactly doing that. Taking sides. Val Gal Girl says, I loathe the term keep the peace and would yeet it into the sun if I could. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? How would you react? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from a throwaway account from the Relationship Advice subreddit and says, how do I, 41 female, deal with unexpected jealousy over my ex-husband's 42 male new girlfriend? My 41 female ex-husband, 42 male, and I divorced when our son was 7. Fast forward to now, our son's 15, 16 in a few months. Somehow we managed to go from divorced and done to actually being pretty good friends. Like we chose to hang out sometimes, not only when it involves our son, and we get along better than ever. It's worked out way better than I ever expected. My ex has started seeing someone new. They've been together for a little while now, but it started to get more serious lately. I've met her but don't know her well. My son is around her a lot more than I am, and he likes her a lot. I hate that this bothers me. Like, I'm genuinely embarrassed how irritated I felt hearing him say how nice she is, how fun she is, how she makes his dad happy. I plastered on a smile and said all the right things, but inside, I was surprised by how jealous I felt. She doesn't like that my ex and I are friends. She's fine with us communicating for our son, but the idea of us hanging out just because we want to is an absolute no in her book. And he started to pull back a little. He's not saying it out loud, but I can tell he's trying to adjust our dynamic to keep the peace in his new relationship. It stings. Months ago, we planned a special trip for our son's 16th birthday. Just the three of us. It was meant to be a shared memory, a kind of family-ish experience to mark a big milestone. It revolves around something my son is obsessed with, something my ex and I both enjoy too. But now the son's girlfriend is coming, despite having no interest in the activity. I found out from my son, not my ex, which made it even worse. I haven't confronted him about it yet because I don't know how to bring it up without sounding jealous or possessive, but I'm honestly upset. It feels like a sacred little space that used to belong to the three of us is slowly being taken over, and I feel helpless to stop it without looking like the crazy ex-wife who can't let go. I didn't expect to feel this jealous, and I really don't want to come off as the crazy ex, but honestly, it feels like I'm losing way more than just a friendship here. I've worked really hard to be mature, supportive, and emotionally steady in this co-parenting journey. How do I manage these feelings without making it weird or damaging the progress we've all made? And how do I set boundaries, if I even can, without turning this into a drama-filled mess? The commenter says to the OP, in some sense, you've been living in a bubble, where the idea of uninterrupted family persisted even through separation and divorce. It was only sustainable as long as nobody else was in the picture. Every situation is different, of course, but as a general thing, if relationships tolerate being amicable with exes for the purpose of shared children, tolerance tends to fade when those children aren't directly involved. The exclusive family unit isn't so exclusive anymore. Time doesn't stand still as much as you've wanted it to. In situations where exes are so involved in each other's lives, if there comes a point when one needs to pull back, there's often a second sting. There was a separation, a divorce, now the palpable reality of your ex getting serious with someone else. Ask yourself something. When is the best time to let go? Then? Now? Sometime later when the weight of that reality becomes too much? If this brings more heartache no matter what, is it best to sever that imaginary cord now or wait until it stretches and snaps anyway? Smooth Cheetah says, my husband and his ex-wife weren't necessarily friends, but before I came along, she definitely was incredibly comfortable with their dynamic, which was she basically got the emotional benefits of him as a husband. Friendship, support, favors, coming over to her house to watch the kids without having to deal with the relationship issues. It didn't bother me really that much initially. I think it's a green flag when you start dating a guy who doesn't hate his ex, but once I started taking over that emotional space for him, it seemed to really bend her out of shape. It's all fine now, but there was definitely a power struggle. My stepson would tell me how confused he was by his mum not seeming to like hearing how he liked me. He was little and didn't really get it, since he thought I was nice. One thing that's important to know is you're not the one that needs to set boundaries here unless it's around your kid. That's totally reasonable, but only in regard to his well-being and safety. She is definitely the one that I guarantee you is struggling with the boundary setting. Imagine you're dating a new guy. Things are great, but there's some weird tie to the ex-wife. It's just not natural, and everyone can be friendly and support each other without being besties. I think you've been benefiting from this relationship in an unnatural way for a while. You both have, and there's nothing wrong with grieving the situation at all. Take your time until your emotional brain catches up with the logic. People move on when they have to make their partners their center. It's not a normal state of being to have your ex be your central friendship. It's also important to note that your son is grown. She is definitely not coming in as a new mummy. Once my husband's ex realized that, I got the fact that her kids had a mum, and I wasn't interested in being anything other than a bonus adult in their life. I cared about them and there to help facilitate a good co-parenting relationship when I could. Things seemed to really fall into place. It's normal to wish something good wouldn't change, but this is something that definitely should change if it means you both get to meet and be with your people. So there were some comments from the OP on that post as well. These comments were downvoted, but the first one says, I don't really think it makes sense for her to come on this trip. I think she's coming to chaperone us because we're going to be doing something together with our son in the hotel room. To provide a bit more background on the trip, that might make it sound a little less weird. We didn't really intend to plan a trip for the purpose of going on a trip together originally. A band we love is reuniting, and while we've both seen them before, in fact 20 years ago when we were a new couple, this is our son's first chance to see them. So that's why this trip is happening, and it happens to be happening right around our son's birthday. So we're celebrating his birthday as part of the trip too. I genuinely have not been hoping this will spark something. Sure, the whole That was 20 years ago when we saw them together last time, has been screwing with my mind lately. And I still remember the date of the very first concert we went to together. But I think it's more of the focus on all that time that's now passed and how it feels impossible for that to have been 2 decades ago, rather than a focus on anything happening between us again. I'm not going for the sake of reliving a memory we shared together. That's not the purpose of me going. She's coming along, but she's not coming to the concert. Guess she'll wait for us at the hotel or find something else to do in the meantime. There's no way she's getting my ticket. I've loved this band for nearly 3 decades, before I even met my ex-husband. She didn't even know who they were. Sorry, there's nothing that would make me offer her my ticket so they could all go and have a great time together. It must make sense to my ex-husband for the 3 of us to go together, since he never even asked me if I wanted to. It was just naturally assumed from the beginning that we'd be going, and he bought the 3 of us tickets. I'm trying to think of this from the girlfriend's point of view in this situation, and I think, if I'm being totally honest, it would make me uncomfortable as well. A band from 20 years ago that they first saw together, a hotel room. That's some pretty intense nostalgia, right? I mean, you're both remembering your early relationship, and in some ways you're going to be recreating a meaningful experience that's from your past. And girlfriend is not coming along, she's just sitting in the hotel room waiting for you to come back. I mean, I really like the way that OP was really raw and honest throughout this post about their feelings and, potentially the husband backing away from her. But for me, and I might be completely wrong in this because I'm reading a text post, right? It does feel like OP's having some complicated feelings about the ex that go beyond just friendship. And I think the girlfriend has picked up on this. So OP did update their post and says, at the beginning of June, I asked for help with navigating these feelings I have regarding my son, my ex-husband, and his new girlfriend. Thanks to everyone who replied, even though I don't think I got a ton of specific actionable advice. I got a lot of opinions and some solid advice. I definitely heard the recurring message loud and clear. Therapy. Some of the comments were genuinely helpful in nudging me to start unpacking the root of what I'm actually feeling, so I appreciate that. Will I go to therapy right now? Honestly, probably not immediately, but we'll see. Most of all the issues are things I just need to work through on my own. But I decided to just ask my ex-husband directly about the whole concert, birthday trip situation. I told him that our son had mentioned his girlfriend is now coming on the trip, and I needed clarity about what the plan was so I could figure out the hotel stuff. I kept it as neutral and non-confrontational as possible. Truthfully, I don't want her to come, and I'm still sort of seething over her being there. He admitted he hadn't told me yet because he was still hoping she'd back out. He said he doesn't want her to come. That's going to make things awkward, and that she kind of inserted herself into the plan and made it really clear she expected to be invited. He felt like he couldn't say no without it hurting their relationship. He even said, "You think I want to go on a trip with both of you?" I suggested that maybe I should give her my concert ticket and buy a separate one so I wouldn't have to sit near them, and she wouldn't have to stay back at the hotel. Or maybe I should just plan to take my son to a completely different date on the tour altogether, since it was probably going to be very awkward for all of us. Especially since he was now claiming he also didn't want her to come. I don't want to buy a ticket and sit separately. I don't want to plan a whole other trip to a different tour date. The thought makes me really mad, but I felt like the adult thing to do was at least suggest it. Maybe I just wanted to see what his reaction would be. He immediately said there was no way I was giving my ticket to her or sitting separately. He said there's no way I'm backing out or going to a different show. We've been planning this for almost a year. We did agree to cancel the shared hotel room and book separate rooms. I didn't bring up the fact that his girlfriend isn't thrilled with us spending time together. I feel like that's something I just need to accept. Most people in new relationships with someone who has a close relationship with an ex would probably feel the same. It's uncomfortable, but I get it, and I'll deal with those feelings on my own. What's hardest for me though is how much I still default to texting or talking to him. We used to talk daily, not just about things related to our son, but everything. He's been my best friend for over 20 years, and before anyone jumps in and says I sound like the obsessive ex calling him that, he said the same about me. I haven't had another best friend in a really long time. I had 2 close girlfriends years ago. Both of those friendships are long gone. Not due to any sort of falling out, but due to reasons I don't want to get into here. Since then, I've struggled to find another close female friend. Someone I really connect with on that deeper level. I have friends, just nobody like that. I'd say my ex-husband is the person I'm most myself with and the person I'm closest to in the world. So yeah, my ex is still that person, and I'm starting to realize that while I don't want him back romantically, I do still see him as mine. Not in a possessive, malicious way, but in that I think I've just never fully adjusted to him being someone with a life completely separate from mine. It's like he's still a character in my story, not somebody with an entire life of his own. I'm also trying to take the advice of getting to know his girlfriend, but also trying to not over-involve myself in their lives. I don't want to become best friends with my ex-husband's girlfriend. That just sounds uncomfortable to me. I spent some time over at his house today and she was there. They don't live together, yet. He watched my dog for me overnight because I had a work event to go to. Well, it's my son's dog too, so the dog basically went over to his dad's with him. They have a splash pad for the dogs over there, so we were playing around with the dogs in the backyard. He starts asking me things like, top 5 albums of all time, go. Then we get into a friendly argument about our favorite albums, which evolved into top 5 guitarists, etc. And these are the things we get along about. I suddenly got the sense that she was not happy about our conversation since she doesn't seem to care about those things and couldn't participate in the conversation. I tried to steer the conversation in another direction so that she wasn't left out, but I'm terrible at making small talk. I decided to make my excuses to politely leave at that point. So now I guess it's just a matter of figuring out how you start emotionally detaching from someone who's been my closest person for so long, especially when you still co-parent and have to interact regularly. How do I detach? I'd never detached after we got divorced, even though I thought I had. For me in this, I think she's still in love with him and that's all there is to it. I think the whole I don't want him back romantically thing is just something she's telling herself. And in fact, I think he's exactly the same as well, saying that he doesn't want his girlfriend to come on the trip. The girlfriend is seeing all these small interactions around, you turning up at the house and having these little chats about your favorite band, your favorite guitarist, you're bonding over this, or reminiscing about your past. I think it's obvious why she's inserted herself into this concert trip. And I really feel for the girlfriend in this, to be quite honest. There was a part in this update that before you even got to the bit where you said maybe I just wanted to see what his reaction would be, for me it was obvious that it was kind of like manipulation, that he was going to give her the concert ticket, or you was going to get a completely different seat. It felt like he was testing him, almost making him choose in some kind of way, and he basically gave you the answer that you wanted. And like I said, I think the girlfriend can see all of this, and I think OP and the ex-husband need to make a decision on what's happening in the future, because at the moment everyone's suffering because these games are being played. And I think OP either needs to admit that she wants him back, or do the work of detaching with therapy or whatever's needed, because right now everyone's suffering because of it, herself included. And disclaimer, as always, I don't think I'm 100% right. I get a lot of comments saying, oh, you think you're right about everything. I absolutely do not. I'm just a bloody Burke behind the microphone. And I really do value everyone else's opinion to come into this. I've learned so much over time about relationships, mental health, and everything from comments, from these stories. It's been pretty an amazing time. But in the comment section, someone says, I read your first post and I can't remember if I commented on it or not. After reading this update, a few thoughts as someone who hasn't been in your position or the girlfriend's position. I'd be pissed if I was the girlfriend and found out my boyfriend actually didn't want me to go on this trip, was hoping he could talk me out of it, and had shared those feelings with ex-wife that he's way too close to. I think you're either still in love with your ex-husband, have fallen back in love with him, or don't love him romantically but still can't stand the thought of anyone else but you having him. You either need to tell him how you feel or seek therapy to deal with your possessive feelings. It may partially apply to your ex as well. Why has it taken either of you so long to get back into a serious relationship with somebody new? His relationship won't last long if he continues to prioritize you over his girlfriend. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing depends on who you ask. Usually Wright says, I remember your original post and commented on it. Having been in the girlfriend's shoes to some extent, it really does feel like the ex-wife is peeing on things to mark territory when they bring up old memories or make comments like, Look what beautiful kids we made, or whatever. Even if you're not marking territory on purpose, it can come off that way. Like girlfriend, or in my case, second wife, is just a third wheel, and sister wife. I think that this is ultimately an ex-husband issue with his boundaries though. If he's saying he didn't want her to come, why did he let her? Because he's conflict averse. On the other hand, I think that at some point you two have to actually act divorced and stop planning family time. There are going to be holidays, graduations, and maybe weddings in your not so far future, and you can't just keep doing them together. Not without the girlfriend/new wife. It's not kind and it's not healthy. My ex-husband used to do Christmas morning with his ex-wife and the kids, for example, the first few years we were together, and I wasn't invited. Can you imagine how that felt? We lived together, but I was to make myself scarce, or he would go to her house if it was a holiday. The kids would even open gifts from me with their mum and dad without me there, and that hurt. I don't know what it's like to be on your end, but I think your ex-husband needs to pick a lane here. And frankly, the way you see him as your best friend makes me wonder why you two divorced. If you're that tied to each other, why didn't you each put in the effort to stay together? Different topic, but still. I really feel you need to find another outlet and start keeping the chats to kids only, because you do need a good friend, but he is being inappropriate being that to you. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.